Dave Parody here with another Slide Makeover video podcast based on the ideas in my book, The Visual Slide Revolution. Today we're going to talk about using a photograph to cover the entire slide, a full screen photograph to enhance a story. And it comes from a slide that I was working on recently. And here's the slide. Now, what they're doing is this is a particular type of analysis system that they have, a tool that allows them to do analysis based on the past performance or past information. And the challenge here is that they're using a story, they're using an analogy, this analogy of looking at the wake of a boat and trying to predict where you're going. And typically what happens is that we write out what it is we're going to say, which is what this slide really is, and we end up saying that, but it really doesn't enhance what we're trying to do. It's an analogy, it's a story, but by using only text, it really is not a great impact, and it doesn't make that impact on our audience that we're hoping that it will have. So what I did is I redid this particular slide, and here's what I did. You know, folks, any of you who've been on a boat know that you can't steer a boat by looking out the back and watching the wake. It'll tell you where you've been, but it really doesn't help you avoid crashing into the rocks or whatever else is in front. And you know, the ABC technique, the tool, is similar. It looks at the past. It's like standing looking at the wake, but it doesn't tell us really anything about the future. If we just assume that because we look at the wake and we say, well, we're always been in clear water and deep enough water, it looks like it'll always be clear sailing. You can't really believe that because we're only looking at the back. We're not looking out front to see what's coming. So you see how by taking a full screen photograph, it makes an impact, and that story, that analogy that we're using to explain why this technique has some challenges in the application of looking forward, this really illustrates and makes the point dramatically, and now it sticks in your audience's mind, and they get it immediately. It's something they're familiar with, and they go, wow, okay. Don't want to do that because I could crash on the rocks. Now what do we need to do next to use this technique in a new way? So what are the lessons that we can learn? Well, before we get to the lessons, just a reminder, to learn more information about the book, go to visualsliderevolution.com. More information about my training, consulting, other videos and resources, go to ThinkOutsideTheSlide.com. So our lessons for using a full screen photo to enhance a story. The first thing is to make sure that whatever photograph you're going to use actually fits the story or analogy you're using. Too often I see people use a photograph just because, well, they like the photograph, but it doesn't fit what they're talking about. So make sure it's exactly what it is you're talking about. And select a photo that is not something where what you're trying to focus on is just a little part of the photo. Make sure it has impact. Full screen, because again, this is going to be projected full screen. You want that photo to be just the item you're talking about. In this case, the wake of the boat behind. That was the majority of the photograph, and that's exactly what we wanted to talk about. So make sure that it's a dramatic photo, it has impact, it's large, focus on what it is you're wanting to talk about. Now you can get photos from a number of different places. The photo that I used today is actually a photo I took. We were at a friend's cottage a few years ago, and I took that photo as we were out on his boat. But make sure that you select photos that have enough resolution. When you're looking for photos, I always say start with the Microsoft photo gallery or image gallery that's online, or you can access it through PowerPoint. If you want to use a stock photography site like iStockPhoto.com or one of the other stock photography sites, usually you have a choice as to how high of a resolution you select. Make sure the photo has enough resolution to actually look crisp and clear when it goes full screen. So most projectors still in use today in our meeting rooms are 1024 by 768, which is known as XGA resolution. So make sure your photo has at least that resolution, because otherwise, if it's a smaller photo and you try to stretch it up to fit the entire slide, it's going to look chunky. It won't look crisp and clear, and it won't have that impact. Now you notice what I did is I did not leave on any of their branding, the titles, anything. I covered the entire slide, and that's what I suggest you do when you're using a photo to have an impact. Cover the entire slide. Don't leave any of the branding, anything, because you want it to pop. You want it to have that impact. So drag it to cover the entire slide. And then once it's covered, now you have nothing showing from underneath. Place a text phrase. In this case, I talked about steering by looking at the wake. Place that text phrase that enhances and really illustrates the message on top of the photo. So they get the photo, they get the text, which adds to their understanding of why this photo is important. Then you tell the story. And if you use a photo this way to enhance your story, your communications will have much greater impact and your audience will immediately get it and they'll remember it. This is Dave Parody with another Slide Makeover video podcast.